Morning, everyone.
Good morning, everybody.
Before we learn, I want to mention the sponsorships for today and this week. This week's learning is sponsored by Rima Naumova to commemorate the yahrzeit of her mother, Faina Sarkina, and her aunt, Rachel Tzivia Bashmuel. And also today's learning is sponsored in memory of Avraham Yosef ben Baruch Moshe by Barry Steinberg. They should have an aliyah. Their neshama should have an aliyah.
Amen.
Okay, we're learning Mishnah Yoma, Perek Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. So continue again with the preparations of Kohen Gadol, of the high priest for Yom Kippur. Masru lo yizakeinim miziknei beis din. They assigned him, they handed over to him, they assigned to him elders from the elders of the court. The court here refers to the Sanhedrin, the highest court of the Jewish people, the highest body of scholars of the Jewish people. And they gave him elders from the elders of the Sanhedrin. And the Zekanim is plural. How many Zekanim do you think there was? How many Zekanim did they assign to him?
3, I think.
2. Zekanim is minimum is 2. So they gave him Zekanim, they assigned to him elders, 2 elders from the elders of the court of the Sanhedrin. And the purpose of these elders were to teach him the laws of the Yom Kippur service that week. Now, the way they did it was V'kairin lafanav b'seder hayoim. They would read before him from the Torah's discussion of the order of that day. In Parshas Achrei Mos, the Torah talks about what the service of the Kohen Gadol will be on Yom Kippur, and that's what they read to him on that day. They don't just read it according to the commentary to Tiferes Yisrael. They elaborated on it, right? Just reading the psukim is not going to be enough to make sure that he's ready for Yom Kippur. But basically, they started from the psukim, the verses of the Torah, and they elaborated from there. And they would say to him, Ishi Kohen Gadol. Ishi means my master. That was a respectful way of addressing a prominent person. Ishi Kohen Gadol, my master, the high priest. Kara ata beficha. You read it with your mouth, meaning you read the verses from the Torah. Shema shachachta. Maybe you have forgotten. What does that mean? Maybe you've forgotten the laws. Okay. So basically, what we want to do now is that, again, my understanding is they reviewed the laws with him. Now they're telling him, you read the verses from the Torah. We know that when you read out loud, that helps you remember, makes a stronger impression upon you. And with reading the verses, he'll remember the verses and everything that goes along with it. And they're saying, well, you do this because maybe you have forgotten. You need a refresher. Or maybe you've never learned. What? You never learned? He's the Kohen Gadol. The answer is that during the times of the Second Beis HaMikdash, you could be an Amoritz, you could be an ignoramus, you could be a Kohen Gadol. Because basically the kings appointed the non-Jewish, the kings appointed the Kohen Gadol, right? The highest bidder gets the job, and they could have been very ignorant people. So they said to him, maybe you never learned. And again, this is what all the respect that they have to give because he's the Kohen Gadol. And the point is, and the Tiferes Yisrael points out, so if he didn't learn, that's the reason why they read it before him. Like why do they have to read it? Here it is. The answer is whether he couldn't read or he never learned it. So they had to teach it to him, right? They had to teach it to him. And I'm assuming that after they taught it to him, they wanted him to read it himself also, so that again he should remember it. But that's what Tiferes Yisrael explains. Tiferes Yisrael explains that the Shema Lamadata, maybe you didn't learn, and that's why they read it to him in the first place, because maybe he never learned. But either way, he's either reviewing or he's learning for the first time, and they make sure to teach it to him the whole week, and that he should review it himself. Now, Erev Yom Kippurim, on Erev Yom Kippur, Shachris in the morning, Ma'amidin Oisei B'Shara Mizrach, they would stand him, the Kohen Gadol, at the eastern gate, U'ma'avirin Lafanav Parim Ve'elam Kvasim, and they would pass before him cows, rams, and lambs. These were all animals that he was going to offer. These were all animals he was going to offer on Yom Kippur. Kedei Makir, so that he should recognize them, V'ragel b'avoda, and then be accustomed, and then be proficient, be accustomed in the service of Yom Kippur he has to do. Meaning, he sees the animals, these are animals I have to bring. Okay. And he has a chance now to basically observe the animals and think about all the laws and all the things he has to do, and think about applying it to these animals. Now, they don't bring it down anywhere here, but in the commentary to Tiferes Yisrael in the Mishna you have, these animals were the animals that he was going to offer the next day. Like you just learned it from here. It was like they brought him animals, bring him these type of animals, and he gets used and he gets, proficient in these animals and what to do. Were these actual animals? It doesn't say. The Tiferes Yisrael, the commentary Yisrael says it were those animals. Those were the animals that I was going to be bringing tomorrow. So it was on those animals himself that had a chance to observe them and to think about what he has to do the next day on them. Now, one very interesting question that is asked is, so it mentions cows, rams, and sheep. There's another type of animal that's missing here that the Kohen Gadol is going to have to deal with on Yom Kippur. That was the goats. Right? There are two goats. Now, one goat was sent away, one goat was slaughtered, was brought as a sacrifice. Not mentioned here. How come they didn't bring the goat? So listen to this answer. Although the Yom Kippur service also included he-goats, they were not passed before the Kohen Gadol because they are brought to atone for the nation, and thinking of its sins might dishearten him. We don't want the Kohen Gadol to get to feel down. We need him to feel encouraged. Okay, and this is even if even if he bought his way in, we're still preparing. He's got to get the job done somehow. Now, the question obviously is, although a bull was brought to atone for the Kohanim, right? You say the he-goats dishearten him because they're brought to atone for the Jewish people. The bull, the cow, that was brought to atone for the Kohanim. So why is that being passed before him? And the answer is, although a bull was brought to atone for the Kohanim, passing it before the Kohen Gadol would not dishearten him because he was personally acquainted with the Kohanim and could encourage them to repent. He had a relationship with the Kohanim. He was the Kohen Gadol. He had a relationship with them. He wouldn't be disheartened because he will encourage them to repent. The whole nation, on the other hand, could be beyond him, and that could dishearten him. Therefore, the he-goats weren't brought in front of him, but the cow was. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Now, suppose he was not an Am Haaretz.